I came home from my business trip to find 40 strangers swimming in my backyard pool. Kids diving off my custom infinity edge, adults lounging on my Italian marble deck furniture, and coolers full of beer scattered across my perfectly manicured lawn. Standing at my sliding glass door with a clipboard and that insufferable smirk was Helen Morrison, HOA board president and self-appointed neighborhood dictator. "Welcome to the Willowbrook Community Pool Access Program," she announced like she was cutting a ribbon. "Your pool has been designated as a shared community amenity under HOA Code 15.7. All residents have equal access rights during posted hours." I stared at the chaos in my backyard. The same pool I'd spent $400,000 building. The same pool that took 8 months to design and construct. The same pool that was completely 100% on my private property. "Helen, get these people out of my pool. Now." She waved her clipboard dismissively. "Mr. Davidson, you can't hoard community resources. This pool serves the entire neighborhood now. It's for the greater good." I pulled out my phone and started recording. "You have 30 seconds to clear my property before I call the police." Helen laughed. "Call whoever you want. The HOA has full legal authority here. Besides, do you really want to be the selfish neighbor who denies children their swimming rights?" What Helen didn't know was that I wasn't just any homeowner. I'm Marcus Davidson, and I just sold my tech company for $2.3 million. I had enough money to bury her in lawsuits until her great-grandchildren felt the legal bills. She was about to learn that some pools aren't worth diving into. Before we dive deeper, drop a comment with where you're watching from. I love connecting with viewers who believe property rights matter. This wasn't Helen's first attempt to redistribute private property in the name of community welfare. For 2 years, she'd been systematically targeting homeowners with nice amenities, claiming the HOA had rights to shared enjoyment of anything that enhanced neighborhood value. It started with Mrs. Chun's Rose Garden. Helen declared it a community botanical space and organized garden tours without permission. When Mrs. Chun protested, Helen fined her for restricting public access to neighborhood beautification. Then came the Martinez family's tennis court. Helen claimed it was a community recreational facility and started scheduling neighborhood tournaments. She even charged entry fees, pocketing the money for HOA's administrative costs. The Johnsons had their outdoor kitchen seized for community barbecue events. Their custom brick pizza oven became Helen's personal catering operation for HOA fundraisers. When they tried to use their own oven, Helen issued citations for unauthorized use of community facilities. But my pool was her crown jewel. The infinity edge overlooking the valley, the integrated spa, the underwater lighting system that cost more than most people's cars. Helen had been circling it like a shark since the day it was completed. She'd started with subtle pressure, suggesting I host neighborhood swim days, hinting that keeping such a beautiful pool private was antisocial, claiming other residents had filed complaints about pool noise, just to establish some kind of regulatory authority. When subtle didn't work, Helen went legal. She sent certified letters claiming my pool violated setback requirements, noise ordinances, and water usage restrictions. All fabricated, but designed to create a paper trail that would justify community intervention. The pool invasion was her final play. She'd waited until I was traveling, then declared a community emergency that required immediate access to private swimming facilities. Her justification? The community center pool was under maintenance, and children's health required alternative options. Helen had turned theft into social justice, and she thought I'd be too embarrassed to fight back against kids who just wanted to swim. I called the police immediately. Officer Rodriguez arrived within 15 minutes, but Helen was ready with her paperwork. She showed him printed HOA bylaws, community safety regulations, and a petition signed by 30 residents supporting shared pool access. "Sir, this appears to be a civil HOA dispute. Officer Rodriguez said reluctantly. "Unless they're damaging property or refusing to leave when ordered by the association, ... I'm ordering them to leave," I said firmly. "This is my pool on my property." Helen stepped forward with her trump card. "Officer, Mr. Davidson's pool was built partially on community easement land. The HOA has survey documentation proving shared ownership rights." She handed him an official-looking survey map. I recognized it immediately. It was my original property survey, but with red lines drawn to suggest my pool extended beyond my property line. Complete fabrication, but convincing enough to make the officer hesitate. "Mr. Davidson, do you have recent survey documentation showing the pool's exact placement?" I didn't have the surveys with me, and Helen knew it. She timed this perfectly. Weekend, me out of town. No immediate access to legal documentation. The swimmer stayed. That night, I called my attorney, Sarah Kim. "Marcus, this is organized theft disguised as community activism. We need to move fast before they establish adverse possession claims." The legal research was damning. Helen had been studying property law loopholes, looking for ways to claim private amenities as community assets. She'd found obscure HOA provisions about community benefit infrastructure and twisted them into justification for seizure. Most dangerous was her documentation strategy. Every photo of neighbors enjoying community pool access. Every testimonial about how the pool served the greater good. Every day the seizure continued strengthened her position that the community had established rightful use. Sarah filed emergency injunctions, but Helen's lawyer countered with claims about community reliance, established usage patterns, and hardship to families if pool access was terminated. The legal system was designed to move slowly, but Helen's theft was happening in real time. The emergency hearing was packed. Helen had mobilized half the neighborhood to attend, painting me as the greedy homeowner trying to deny families their swimming rights. Parents held signs reading "Pools for all kids" and "Stop hoarding community resources." Judge Patricia Williams called the court to order. "This is a preliminary hearing regarding pool access rights in Willowbrook Estates. Ms. Morrison, please state the HOA's position." Helen stood confidently. "Your Honor, the defendant's pool was built using community easement land and serves as essential infrastructure for neighborhood families. 37 residents rely on this facility for recreation and exercise. Denying access would create serious hardship." She presented her fabricated survey, resident testimonials, and photos of children enjoying their pool. The performance was masterful. I looked like the villain keeping families from basic recreation. My attorney stood for rebuttal. "Your Honor, my client's pool is entirely on private property, built with private funds, and has been unlawfully seized by the HOA through fraud and forgery." Judge Williams examined Helen's survey carefully. "This documentation appears to show pool placement on easement land." That's when I stood up from the gallery. "Your Honor, I'd like to present the actual survey conducted by licensed professionals, not the altered version created by the HOA. Helen's face went pale as I approached the bench with the real documentation. Professional survey maps showing my pool was completely within my property boundaries. Architectural plans proving private financing. And most damaging, the original property deed showing I owned the land outright. Furthermore, I continued, I can demonstrate that Ms. Morrison's survey was deliberately falsified to justify theft of private property. I handed Judge Williams a side-by-side comparison showing how Helen had redrawn property lines with colored pens, adding fake easement markings that didn't exist on the original. Judge Williams studied both documents with growing displeasure. "Ms. Morrison, can you explain these discrepancies?" Helen stammered. "Your Honor, there may have been some confusion in the documentation process, ... Confusion or forgery?" Judge Williams's voice was ice cold. The court ordered an immediate professional survey to settle the property line dispute. While we waited for results, I decided to drop the bombshell that would end Helen's community pool fantasy forever. Your Honor, there's one more factor the court should consider. This isn't just about property rights. It's about the value of what the HOA is attempting to seize. Helen looked confused. Her lawyer shuffled papers nervously. I pulled out a thick folder. These are receipts and contracts for pool construction, equipment, and design. The total value of this facility is $2.3 million. The courtroom erupted. Judge Williams banged her gavel for order. The Infinity Edge system cost $180,000. The integrated spa was $95,000. The underwater lighting and automation systems were $240,000. The custom stonework and landscaping were $310,000. Ms. Morrison isn't claiming community access to a backyard pool. She's attempting to steal a luxury facility worth more than most homes. Helen's supporters looked stunned. Parents who'd brought their children to the hearing started whispering among themselves, realizing they'd been unknowingly participating in grand theft. Judge Williams leaned forward. Mr. Davidson, are you saying the HOA is claiming community ownership of a $2.3 million private facility? Exactly. Your Honor, Ms. Morrison has convinced residents they have rights to a luxury amenity they never paid for, never voted to fund, and have no legal claim to whatsoever. Helen's lawyer requested an immediate recess. During the break, I watched parents hurriedly leave the courthouse, no longer interested in being associated with what was clearly criminal theft. The professional survey results came back within hours. My pool was entirely on my private property, with over 50 feet of clearance from any easement lines. Helen's altered documentation was exposed as fraudulent. Judge Williams's ruling was swift and decisive. The HOA's claims are without merit and based on falsified documentation. Mr. Davidson's property rights are restored immediately. Furthermore, Ms. Morrison's actions constitute attempted fraud and theft of services valued at over $2 million. Helen's community pool scheme collapsed spectacularly. The criminal referral for document forgery and attempted grand theft resulted in felony charges. Her claim of serving the community evaporated when prosecutors calculated she'd been trying to steal $2.3 million worth of private property. The civil lawsuit was even more devastating. Helen personally owed damages for trespassing, property damage, and fraudulent misrepresentation. The pool cleaning and chemical rebalancing alone cost $8,000 after 40 strangers had used it unsupervised for days. But the real punishment was social. News of the $2.3 million pool seizure attempt spread through social media like wildfire. Helen went from neighborhood hero fighting for families to greedy criminal trying to steal luxury amenities. The parents who'd supported her felt betrayed and manipulated. The HOA board voted for Helen's immediate removal and implemented new policies requiring professional legal review before any property claims. They also established clear boundaries about what constituted community property versus private amenities. My pool returned to its intended use, private relaxation for my family and invited guests. The first party I threw after the legal victory was beautiful. Close friends, professional catering, and zero HOA interference. But the most satisfying moment came 6 months later. Helen's house went up for sale. She couldn't afford the legal costs and civil damages. As she loaded boxes into her moving truck, I was lounging by my infinity pool, enjoying the sunset she'd tried to steal from me. "Leaving us so soon?" I called over the fence. She didn't respond, just slammed her car door and drove away from the neighborhood she'd tried to rule. Helen Morrison thought she could redistribute private property by declaring it community infrastructure. She learned that calling theft social justice doesn't make it legal. It just makes the penalties worse. Today, my pool remains exactly what it always was, a private luxury amenity that I worked hard to afford. The infinity edge still overlooks the valley. The spa still provides relaxation after long days, and the underwater lights still create magic after sunset. The most beautiful irony? Alan's attempt to make my pool public ended up making it more private than ever. The legal victory established clear precedent that HOA boards can't seize private property regardless of community benefit claims. If someone tries to steal your property in the name of community good, document everything. Get professional appraisals, and never let them establish usage patterns. Sometimes the best defense against theft is showing exactly how much the thieves are trying to steal. What would you do if neighbors started using your pool without permission? Share your thoughts below, and if this story inspired you, subscribe for more tales where property rights win over community theft. Because sometimes the most expensive lesson someone can learn is that other people's property isn't theirs to redistribute.